The Lincoln Cent has been in Americans' pockets for more than a century, making it the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. Generations have grown up with the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln looking solemnly to the right, and the coin has become such a constant presence in daily life that most people barely give it a second thought. Yet for coin collectors, each year of issue tells its own story. Some years produced rare treasures. Others carried varieties that became famous, and still others hid surprises that would not be uncovered until decades later. One such year is 1984, when a U.S. mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents that, at first glance, looked entirely ordinary, but turned out to include some remarkable rarities. To appreciate the 1984 Lincoln Memorial Cent, it helps to understand its place in history. The Lincoln Cent series began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Sculptor Victor David Brenner created the design, which featured a bust of Lincoln on the obverse, the first time a U.S. president had appeared on a circulating coin. The reverse originally carried Brenner's famous wheat ears design, known as the wheat cent. This design remained until 1959, when a nation marked the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and the 50th anniversary of the coin itself. At that time, the reverse was changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., designed by Frank Gasparo W.Y. in 1984. The Lincoln Memorial reverse had been in use for 25 years, and the coin was a familiar sight to everyone. The obverse retained Brenner's portrait of Lincoln, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust" arching above, "Liberty" boldly to the left, and the date to the right, often accompanied by a mint mark. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stood in sharp relief, with a tiny figure of Lincoln visible between its columns if viewed closely. Above appeared the words, "United States of America," with "E pluribus unum" beneath it, and 1 cent filling the bottom. The metal composition of the 1984 Lincoln Cent was also part of its story. For most of the 20th century, cents were made of a bronze alloy containing 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. But in 1982, copper prices had risen to the point where the intrinsic value of the metal exceeded the coin's face value. To address this, the mint changed the composition of the cent to a copper-plated zinc planchet, 97.5% zinc with a thin coating of pure copper. This change was permanent, and by 1984 all Lincoln cents were struck on zinc planchets. While this solved the economic problem, the switch created new challenges. Zinc planchets were more prone to corrosion, blistering, and uneven plating, which sometimes produced odd-looking coins. Collectors today know that post-1982 cents often carry minor flaws, and some of these quirks have become collectible in their own right. The mintage figures for 1984 were enormous. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 8.1 billion cents, while the Denver Mint struck more than 5.5 billion. With totals like that, the 1984 Lincoln Cent ranks among the most common coins of its era. But as with many issues, the real interest lies not in the vast majority of ordinary examples, but in the rare varieties and exceptional survivors that stand out from the crowd. The most famous of these is the 1984 double die obverse, one of the best-known modern Lincoln Cent varieties. A double die occurs when the working die receives multiple impressions that are not perfectly aligned, causing design elements to appear doubled on the coins it strikes. For the 1984 double die obverse, the doubling is most clearly seen on Lincoln's ear, giving the appearance of an extra earlobe. This extra ear variety has become legendary among collectors, ranking alongside other famous Lincoln double dies, such as the 1955 and 1972 cents. Depending on its condition, a 1984 double die cent can range in value from $150 in circulated grades to well over $1,000 in mint state. Other errors and varieties from 1984 also attract attention. Off-center strikes are relatively scarce, but dramatic when found. These are coins that were not perfectly seated in the press, causing part of the design to be missing and a blank crescent of planchet to remain visible. A minor off-center strike may sell for $20 to $40, but if the coin is 40% or more off-center and still shows the full date, the value can soar into the hundreds. Die cracks and cuds are another area of fascination. A cut appears when part of the die breaks away, leaving a blank raised blob on the coin surface. These mistakes can be small or large, and collectors pay anywhere from $50 to several $100s depending on the severity and eye appeal. Die cracks, which appear as raised lines across the coin, are common but interesting, with dramatic examples sometimes bringing premiums. Striking errors also exist, such as broad strikes and double strikes. A broad strike occurs when a coin is struck without the restraining collar, allowing the design to spread outward. Double strikes happen when a coin is struck more than once, producing overlapping or ghost-like images of the design. Both types of errors are relatively scarce and can range from $50 to several $100 depending on the quality. Condition, as always, is crucial. While billions of 1984 cents were minted, most went directly into circulation and received heavy wear. Finding a 1984 cent in pristine mint state condition, especially one free of the zinc planchet problems that plague the issue, is surprisingly challenging. Registry set collectors compete fiercely for top-grade examples. At MS67 Red, a 1984 cent can command over $400, while MS68 examples, exceedingly rare, have crossed auction blocks for well over $1,000. This is where the ordinary penny becomes extraordinary, transforming from a common piece of change into a prize for collectors. Auction records tell the story vividly. A 1984 double die obverse in high mint state grades has sold for thousands of dollars. Even standard 1984 cents, when preserved in flawless condition, have achieved impressive results, with some PCGS-graded MS68 Red selling for more than $1,200. These numbers prove that despite its common mintage, the 1984 cent has remarkable potential. Beyond its market value, the 1984 Lincoln cent carries historical significance. It represents the early years of the zinc era, a time when the mint was still fine-tuning its processes and collectors were adjusting to the new look and feel of copper-plated coins. Many Americans noticed that post-1982 cents sounded different when dropped on a table or felt lighter in the hand, subtle reminders of the change in composition. For collectors today, the 1984 cent serves as a window into that transition. The IT also underscores the importance of paying attention to small details. The doubled ear variety, after all, went unnoticed by most people for years. Countless examples probably passed through circulation before collectors began to recognize its significance. That lesson resonates with numismatists. Great treasures can hide in plain sight, overlooked by millions until someone with a sharp eye takes notice. The Lincoln Cent series is beloved partly because of discoveries like this. From the famous 1909 SVDB to the 1955 double die and on through the 1984 extra year, the series is full of surprises. Each new find adds depth and excitement, turning everyday change into potential treasure that the next time you come across a 1984 Lincoln cent, don't just toss it into your change jar. Look closely. Check Lincoln's ear for that extra earlobe. Study the surfaces for signs of doubling, off-center strikes, or other unusual features. Hold it under the light to see if it might be a top-grade example with blazing red luster. Because while billions were minted, only a small fraction carry the traits that make them special, and those coins are worth far more than 1 cent. Collectors know that the thrill of the hunt is part of the magic. The idea that a coin struck in the billions could still harbor hidden gems worth hundreds or thousands keeps the search alive. The 1984 Lincoln Memorial Cent is a perfect example of that magic. A coin so ordinary it blends into the background, yet so extraordinary when viewed through the lens of numismatics. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Value is not always obvious. Sometimes it takes knowledge, patience, and a careful eye to reveal the hidden worth in something overlooked. The 1984 Lincoln Cent may seem like just another penny, but for those who know its story, it is a reminder that treasure can lie anywhere, even in the palm of your hand. The Lincoln Cent has always been more than a small coin. For most people, it is pocket change, something hardly worth picking up off the ground. But for collectors, every year, every mint mark, every tiny variation holds a story. The 1994 Lincoln Cent, known by many collectors as the Liberty Lincoln Cent because of the proud word Liberty stamped to the left of Lincoln's portrait, is one of those coins that tells a story of transition, survival, and hidden treasure. At first glance, it seems ordinary. Yet with closer attention, it becomes a coin worth remembering, especially for the remarkable errors, unique varieties, and the rare, pristine survivors that bring life to the hobby. The obverse is instantly recognizable. Abraham Lincoln facing right, just as he has since 1909. Above his head is the motto, "In God We Trust," bold and clear. To the left, the word Liberty sits prominently, the detail that gives the coin one of its nicknames among collectors. To the right is the date 1994, sometimes accompanied by the tiny letter D for Denver, or no mint mark at all for Philadelphia. The reverse, of course, features the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Asparo, standing strong in the center, with United States of America above, E pluribus unum tucked neatly beneath, and 1 cent anchored at the bottom. For decades, this design defined the penny, and by 1994, it had become as familiar as the sound of coins clinking in by the mid-1990s. America was already long past the transition from copper to zinc. In 1982, the mint had permanently shifted from a 95% copper composition that had defined cents for generations to a copper-plated zinc planchet, 97.5% zinc with a thin 2.5% copper layer. The 1994 cent, like all cents of the era, followed this formula. The shift had been necessary. Copper prices had risen so high that pennies were worth more for their metal content than their face value. But for collectors, it meant new challenges. The zinc planchets corroded easily, blistered, and developed unsightly spots. Finding cents that survived the decades in pristine condition became surprisingly difficult. In terms of numbers, the 1994 cent was anything but rare. The Philadelphia Mint produced more than 6.5 billion, and the Denver Mint struck over 4.5 billion. Together, that's more than 11 billion coins released into circulation in a single year. With such enormous numbers, you might assume there's nothing special about the 1994 cent. But coin collectors know better. Within billions, rarity hides. Within the flood of everyday coins, mistakes occur, extraordinary survivors slip through, and unique stories emerge. One of the most talked about features of 1994 Lincoln cents is the double die variety. While most famous double dies belong to years like 1955, 1969, and 1972, the 1994 cent does have its own double die examples, particularly on the obverse. Collectors have reported strong doubling in areas like Liberty and the date, where the letters or numbers appear shadowed or doubled under magnification. Even though they may not be as dramatic as the 1955, these double dies can still bring impressive value at auction, ranging from $50 to several $100s, depending on clarity and grade. Then there are the errors that make the 1994 cent such an exciting hunt. Off-center strikes are among the most eye-catching. When a blank planchet isn't perfectly centered between the dies, the design shifts to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. Minor offsetters of 5% to 10% might fetch $20 to $40, but dramatic off-centers, where 40% or more of the coin is missing yet the date remains visible, can command $200 or more. The appeal lies in the visual drama. These coins are instantly recognizable as something unusual. Die breaks and cuds are another fascinating aspect. In 1994, the mint was striking billions of cents, and dies were pushed to their limits. Overuse led to cracks, breaks, and pieces of dies breaking off entirely, creating raised blobs or lines on the coins. Some 1994 cents exhibit spectacular cuds where a chunk of the rim is missing, replaced by a raised, featureless blob of metal. Depending on size and placement, such errors can bring anywhere from $25 to several $100s. Collectors love them because no two cuds are ever the same. Plating errors are unique to the zinc era, and the 1994 cent is no exception. These include coins with missing copper plating, exposing the silvery-colored zinc underneath. Some cents even show partial plating, where patches of zinc peek through in random areas. Such errors, especially when dramatic, can easily sell for $50 to $150. In rare cases where the coin is almost completely missing its copper plating, values can climb higher. Another error category is broad strikes and double strikes. A broad strike occurs when the restraining collar fails during striking, causing the coin to spread out wider than normal. Double strikes, on the other hand, happen when the coin is struck more than once, leaving overlapping images. Both types of errors are visually striking and can range from $75 to several $100 depending on severity and condition. Wrong planchet errors are especially rare but dramatic. Imagine a 1994 cent struck on a dime or foreign coin planchet. Such errors are instantly recognizable due to differences in size, weight, or color, and they are highly prized by collectors. When authenticated, these coins often fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars. A staggering leap from their humble face value of 1 cent high-grade condition is where the 1994 cent becomes truly interesting for registry set collectors. The vast majority of these coins circulated heavily, acquiring scratches, nicks, and discoloration. Zinc planchets didn't age well, so pristine examples are scarce. In mint state 65, a 1994 cent may only be worth a few dollars, but at mint state 67 red, values climbed sharply into the hundreds. The real excitement comes at mint state 68 red, where population numbers are tiny. Coins at this grade have sold for $500 to over $1,000 at major auctions, proving that even a modern cent can be worth serious money when preserved at the highest levels. Auction history provides vivid proof of this. One 1994 cent graded MS-68 red fetched nearly $1,500, a price that stunned many who assumed the coin was too common to ever be valuable. Off-center examples with strong detail have sold for $200 to $400, while dramatic HUDs have crossed the block for similar amounts. Double die examples have brought hundreds depending on strength and visibility. Each of these results highlights the same lesson. Even a coin minted in the billions can produce extraordinary rarities worth real money. But the 1994 cent isn't just about technical details and auction records. It also carries with it the weight of history. By 1994, the Lincoln cent had been in continuous production for 85 years. It was the longest-running coin design in American history, and it still carried Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln, a design chosen all the way back in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. While other denominations saw design changes, the cent endured, its familiar face serving as a quiet reminder of continuity in a changing world. The coin also reflects the reality of modern minting. In 1994, the mint's focus was on efficiency, producing billions of coins quickly and consistently. Yet the very scale of production made errors inevitable, and those errors are what collectors cherish today. Every off-center, every cud, every double die represents a tiny crack in the perfection of mass production, a glimpse of imperfection that turned ordinary into extraordinary. And for those who collect today, the 1994 Lincoln cent is both accessible and exciting. On one hand, billions of them still circulate, making it easy to find examples in pocket change. On the other hand, the hunt for errors and high grades provides a challenge that keeps the hobby engaging. You might sort through thousands of coins and find nothing unusual, but then suddenly, one coin catches your eye. A shifted strike, a patch of missing copper plating, a brilliant red survivor without a single scratch. In that moment, a 1-cent coin becomes a story, a collectible, and sometimes even a treasure worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. That's the magic of the 1994 Liberty Lincoln cent. It looks ordinary, but it's anything but. It carries with it the legacy of Lincoln, the endurance of America's longest-running coin design, the complications of zinc planchets, and the unexpected beauty of minting errors. It proves that even in the most common of years, hidden value can be found, and that treasure still hides in plain sight for those who care enough to look. The next time you see the word Liberty boldly stamped to the left of Lincoln's portrait on a 1994 penny, pause for a moment. Think about the billions of coins that poured out of the mint that year. Think about the rare double dies, the dramatic off-centers, the missing plating, the cuds, the flawless red survivors that make collectors' hearts race. Think about how a single penny, struck in 1994, could still be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars when preserved or when struck imperfectly. And above all, remember this. In the world of coins, no year is truly ordinary. Even the smallest coin, the most overlooked cent, can carry history, artistry, and value far greater than its humble face. The Lincoln cent has been one of the most iconic coins in American history, a piece of copper or zinc that tells stories far larger than its size. By the time 1989 arrived, the cent had already been circulating for 80 years, carrying with it the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, a design first introduced in 1909. People barely gave it a glance when they spent on a piece of candy, tossed it into a jar, or dropped it on the floor. But collectors knew better. Every date, every mint mark, every tiny design feature could hold secrets, and the 1989 cent proved once again that even a coin struck in the billions can harbor rare treasures that make hearts race. The obverse of the 1989 Lincoln cent carried Victor David Brenner's enduring portrait of Lincoln, facing right. Above his head, the motto, "In God We Trust," was inscribed. To the left of his profile stood the word Liberty, bold and prominent, and to the right, the date 1989, accompanied by the mint mark D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia. On the reverse, Frank Gasparo's rendering of the Lincoln Memorial stood proudly in the center, a reminder of the building that honors the 16th president in Washington, D.C. With the words United States of America above, e pluribus unum beneath, and 1 cent at the bottom, the coin was both simple and symbolic. But while the design was familiar, the composition of the 1989 cent reflected a relatively recent change in U.S. coinage history. Just 7 years earlier, in 1982, the mint had permanently shifted from bronze to a copper-plated zinc core. Rising copper prices meant it was no longer economically feasible to strike pennies from 95% copper. Instead, the mint opted for a planchet made of 97.5% zinc with a thin plating of pure copper. This was a practical solution for the treasury, but it created headaches for collectors. Zinc planchets were prone to plating blisters, corrosion, and other issues that could affect the look and longevity of the coin. For a date like 1989, those flaws added another layer of complexity, making pristine survivors harder to find. The mintage numbers in 1989 were staggering. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 7.3 billion cents, while the Denver Mint produced over 5.3 billion. Together, that's nearly 13 billion coins, making the 1989 cent one of the most common in circulation. With so many examples flooding the economy, most people would assume that nothing about this coin could ever be rare or valuable. Yet, within that ocean of copper-plated zinc, a small number of error coins and high-grade survivors managed to stand out. Errors are what bring coins like the 1989 cent to life for collectors. They are the little accidents of the minting process that transform an ordinary penny into a collectible worth far more than face value. One of the most fascinating types of errors associated with this date is the double die. While the 1989 cents don't feature a double die as famous as the 1955 or 1972 Lincoln cent, examples of doubling have been reported on the obverse and reverse. Doubling often occurs during the hubbing process, when a die receives more than one impression that doesn't perfectly align. On some 1989 cents, this can be seen in areas like the date, Liberty, or even the lettering on the reverse. Though subtle compared to other years, such doubling can boost the value of a coin dramatically when certified by major grading services. Off-center strikes are another type of error that excite collectors. These happen when a planchet is not properly seated in the striking chamber, causing the design to appear shifted and leaving part of the coin blank. A 1989 Lincoln cent struck 10% off-center might bring $40 or $50, while one struck 50% off-center with a full visible date could easily cross into the hundreds. The visual appeal of such mistakes makes them especially popular in the error collecting community. Die breaks, die cracks, and cuds also appear on 1989 cents. When dies are overused or damaged, they can crack or break, leaving raised lines or blobs on the coins they strike. A cud, in particular, occurs when a portion of the die breaks away completely, leaving a blank, raised area on the coin surface. Some 1989 cents exhibit dramatic cuds that collectors prize for their uniqueness. Depending on size and location, values can range from $25 for smaller breaks to several $100s for larger, eye-catching examples. Then there are broad strikes and double strikes. A broad strike happens when a coin is struck without the restraining collar, allowing the metal to flow outward and create an oversized, distorted piece. Double strikes, on the other hand, occur when the coin is struck more than once, leaving overlapping images. Both errors are relatively rare for 1989 cents, but when found, they can command prices from $75 to several $100s, especially if the error is dramatic. Condition, as always, plays a huge role. The vast majority of 1989 cents entered circulation immediately and received heavy wear. The zinc core made them even more prone to unsightly spotting and discoloration, meaning attractive survivors are difficult to come by. Coins that remain bright red, with full luster and no visible marks, are highly sought after. In Mint State 67, a 1989 Lincoln cent can command around $200, while MS 68 examples, incredibly rare, have crossed auction blocks for well over $1,000. It is these top-end coins that keep registry-set collectors constantly searching. Auction records provide striking proof of the coin's hidden value. For example, certified 1989 cents in MS 68 red have sold for more than $1,500 at major auctions. Error coins from this date have also reached impressive heights. with dramatic off-center examples bringing $400 or more. Even coins with smaller, more subtle errors can surprise bidders, reminding everyone that rarity is not always obvious at first glance. For collectors, the 1989 Lincoln cent embodies a fascinating paradox. It is one of the most common coins ever struck, with billions produced, yet within its ranks lies some of the rarest treasures. The double dies, the off-centers, the cuds, the high-grade survivors. Each of these coins tells a story of chance, accident, or preservation against all odds. They are the coins that elevate the 1989 cent from a common piece of pocket change to a sought-after collectible. Beyond the technical details, the 1989 cent also represents a moment in American history. It came at the close of the 1980s, a decade of change and transition. The Cold War was ending, technology was advancing rapidly, and American culture was shifting in countless ways. Through it all, the Lincoln cent remained a constant, a reminder of continuity and tradition even as the world evolved. And perhaps that's what makes it so appealing. Coins are not just pieces of metal. They're artifacts of their time. The 1989 Lincoln cent, with its zinc core and its familiar design, reflects both stability and adaptation. It shows how the mint responded to economic realities while maintaining the nation's longest-running coin design. It shows how billions of coins could be produced with precision, yet still allow for the occasional mistake that sparks a collector's imagination. For anyone holding a 1989 penny today, the lesson is clear. Don't dismiss it as just another cent. Look closer. Check the date for signs of doubling. Examine the edges for off-center strikes. Study the surface for cracks, cuds, or unusual distortions. Consider the condition. Does it still have full red luster, or has it turned brown with time? Any of these factors could turn that penny into something far more valuable than its face value. In fact, some of the most dramatic 1989 errors have sold in the range of $500 to $1,000, with pristine top-grade examples pushing well beyond that. And when you consider that the coin's face value is only 1 cent, the return on investment is staggering. It's this possibility that keeps collectors searching, sorting through rolls, checking pocket change, and dreaming of finding the next great rarity. The 1989 Lincoln cent may not have the fame of the 1909 SVB or the 1955 double die, but it carries its own unique charm. It is a coin of hidden value, a coin that reminds us to look closer, to pay attention to details, and to appreciate the beauty of accidents. It is a coin that proves even in the most ordinary of places, your pocket, your change jar, the till at a grocery store, extraordinary discoveries can still be made. The next time you spot the word Liberty boldly to the left of Lincoln's portrait on a 1989 penny, pause for a moment. Think about the billions that were struck, the errors that slipped through, the flawless examples that somehow survived, and the collectors who cherish them today. Think about how a single coin, overlooked by most, can tell a story of history, economics, craftsmanship, and chance. And most of all, remember that even the humblest penny can hold the power to surprise, to delight, and to remind us that treasure often hides in plain sight.